Hello, good evening. So, today we are going to talk about cloud security. So, basically, the very first question is what is cloud and what is its usage in terms of the technology? Why a cloud term has been came? So, cloud is something which is providing you benefit with respect to the different emerging and new technologies. So cloud itself talks about the flexibility and the scalability. So far as we know, for the organizations or anyone who is willing to have a startups, they need a physical infrastructure. They need someone to have access over the database, who will be monitoring all the database and looking out for the security purpose, for the storage of the data. Because so far what we have learned in the cyber security, or what we have learned in the VAPT bootcamp, is that your data or your information is very crucial for nowadays. So you have to be very updated with your data, where your data is being used, where your data is being stored, how your data is being utilized. So with respect to that, cloud offers one of the best functionality, or you can say one of the best benefit, is that it's helping to the organization to manage to store all this data in a secure environment, and where you can have the space, or you can utilize this space as per your demand. So in cloud we are very much familiar with the term pay as you go. So pay as you go is a term which is talking about the resource you required, you are paying for just that resource only. So that's the reason we are having scalability and flexibility in cloud. So cloud is something which is helping you to store your data, to manage your data, to extend your different resources, to utilize different ways, whether it's your infrastructure, whether your platform, whether deploying any services. So in all these different terms, cloud is very beneficial because there is no need of any physical space. So you are not required to pay a heavy or expensive amount on this particular physical infrastructures. So it's very cost saving. Now, why there is a need of security on the cloud then? So you can simply write your answers in the chat box that what is the need of securing this cloud. If cloud is so much beneficial that it's saving your cost, it is flexible, it is scalable, and it's helping to the infrastructure, organizations, or even people for various work. So why there is a need of securing it? What could be the cause if the cloud platforms are not secure? Anyone, you can write your answers in the chat box. Okay, Sunil is saying service, but what kind of service? Just complete the statement, Sunil. Okay, Wendell is saying that if it is not secure, third parties can have access to your data without your knowledge. Apologies if the any pronunciation mistake is in there in your names. So anything which you are using on the cloud itself, it is managed by the third party, because you are not the one who is managing. So it's not the case that these third parties are having access. So for that we have to provide this security, something better, because now you're in the boot camp of a penetration testing and vulnerability assessment. So think in that way, that why there is a need of this security. Because everything is on the cloud, how anyone would have access for this? Sunil, the services you are talking, it is platform as a service. So what do you want to convey? I am not able to get it. Like you are saying that from this past, that is platform as a service, there might be a security issue or something. Come on guys, you can just try to brainstorm your mind a little bit more. Why there is a need of having this security on the cloud? if cloud is so much providing you so much benefits? Think of the root cause, that what vulnerability could be there. For that vulnerability the security has been occurred. Yes, Sunil. It for the data breaches, because the data, till now everything we are concerned about, like the information of a person, of an organization. But what is it? It's information, it's data. So yes, definitely, just like other thing which is present on the internet media, cloud itself hosted on the internet. Yes, Shivasai, you're absolutely right. That's what I am asking. That if cloud is so much beneficial, that it's providing all the functionalities, all the flexibilities, it's also saving your money. But at the same time, in parallel, there is a high risk, because each and every services which is hosted on your cloud is managed by the third party itself. So that security on the cloud should be very much advanced. If it's not in a secure, the security is not enough, then your data could be in the wrong hands. But at what, how it would be in the wrong hand? By having the unauthorized access. And how this unauthorized access would happen? By data breaches, by different cyber attacks. So just let's talk about some common threats, or the some common weaknesses which could happen in your cloud platforms. Now we are having different platforms, or you can say different services for the cloud, that is your infrastructure, your platform as a services, your SaaS. But whenever you are using any of these services, the very first thing that you are concerned about, that how it is going to secure. So you are assured that like suppose if you are using from the Google, that is Google, it's having itself, that is GCP, Google console, and Amazon is having its own cloud environment, that is AWS. So different organization has started to create its own cloud hosting platforms for the betterment, for the security, so that there should be no weakness, or there should be no chances of having the data breaches. So we have to be sure that this cloud platform is highly secure from the data breaches. The very first and important thing. Second is from the intruders. Now who is the intruder? Intruder can also be called as the insider threats, and majorly the attacks or the vulnerabilities which is present on your cloud hosting platforms are due to these three main causes, that is your data breach, unauthorized access, and insider threats. So insider threat is something that is very common in most of the attacks, and in cloud, if there is someone who is the insider or the intruder, they are definitely a big vulnerability for the organization and for the people who are using this particular platform for the data purposes. So you should be very precautious while using any of this cloud platform. The best example for the cloud you can provide is your Google Drive. On the Google, you are having a very large space, like 15 GB of space we are allocated free. So how you are using your drive, it's what data is stored. So on your drive, just like you are storing photos, your folders, files, audio, books, everything, just like that in the cloud itself we are having a bucket, and in that bucket each and everything just like your drive has been stored and has been managed for the future usage. But in some cases we can see that whenever we are sharing or whenever we are using, there might be some vulnerabilities, like suppose if you are sharing your drive access to someone else, they are not able to use it until and unless you are not providing that authority that yes, this particular material from the drive is accessible for view purpose or for editing purpose. Then and there only the person should be able to access that particular data. So just like that, in the cloud environment itself or in the cloud, we are having access, different access, and how you are going to provide this access based on your IAM policy. So your IAM policy is totally focused on the cloud. So this stuff which I am listing over here, just make a note of it because it is somewhere very useful for you guys if you are going for the cloud or for the cloud security, because as a cloud security you should know what policies you are going to use. Like for the authorization and authentication of the user, IAM policy is there, and for other references like multi-factor authentication, there are certain different authentications apps you will be using. So you have to make sure that what platform you are using, whether it's of Google, it's of Microsoft, it's of Amazon. Now let's talk about the practices. What could be the best security practices you will be required to overcome these vulnerabilities, so there will be a less chances of having attack on these organizations. So the best practice is that the very common and one of the useful practice for security purpose in the cloud itself is the authentication. More strong the authentication is there, more chances that only authorized person is having the access to use that particular services, resources, and no unauthorized or guest entry will be there. Next we have data encryption. So just like in some of the previous sessions we have talked about cryptography, we have talked about the data. So there is a high need that how you are using this cryptographic, this encryption algorithm to secure your data. So there is a high need for the cryptography itself. So if you are going to be a penetration tester, you should be aware that what are the different cryptography algorithm is there and which cryptography algorithm is very much useful to provide a security to your data, whether it's symmetric, asymmetric or hybrid algorithm, because then only you can provide one of the best encryption to your data and that will maintain the confidentiality on the cloud itself. Now lastly we are having regular security audits. So just like I have told that cloud is a very huge environment where your all ways of data is being stored, managed and executed as per your need and demand. So how it will going to be get monitored? So every now and then there should be someone who should monitor this, that how is your security, whether there is something which is left unpatched or whether any flaw is there. So for that there is a different team, a blue team which will going to look after this, or you can say even a monitoring team which will having 24/7 security updations. So this is the 3 best measures you can choose for having a best security practice in the cloud itself. Now let's talk about some of the security tools. So for the organizations or just for a normal beginner who wants to check for certain storages, so you can have your own lab setups, like you can use different machines and then you can provide a home lab setup for this particular infrastructures checking that what could be the desired output. So we are having some of the tools, that is firewall, IDS, encryption protocols, and lastly we are having security shields. Now the last which we are having is security shield. It will depend on you that what kind of shield you are using to secure the infrastructure or the organization. Now in this, if you can see, there is one thing which is not mentioned, or even though any, you can consider it as a mistake that I have not considered over here. You can write in the chat box that something is missing in the security tools. Yes, Ishwar, exactly. In the third dash should be IPS, Intrusion Prevention System. Now, this is your task, that what is IPS and how it is going to protect the infrastructure, or what is the usage of this IPS in the security. So you have to just provide 1 hour anytime you are free, just check what is the role of IPS in terms of cloud security and how it's going to make sure that any intrusion is there and how you will prevent. Because firewall, IDS is something that actually providing you the alert. Sometimes that alert might be false positive, false negative, but you are not able to provide any kind of action on that. You are not doing any kind of action. It's just basically a alarm or alert which is saying that an suspicious activity is there, or any anonymous person is trying to have a login based on the firewall rules or rule based policy, anything. But when we are talking about IPS, we are concerned that okay, something has been generated, a suspicious activity is there, and we have to take certain action. But what actually this IPS is helping you for the cloud platforms, it's your task to figure out and provide a simple documentation kind of stuff on it. So it is very much useful for you guys on the cloud, and understanding that how you can actually perform an attack or how you can stimulate a lab setup. Now encryption protocols. So whenever we are talking about data, for different sets of data, or you can say for different ways of storing the data, the encryption protocol will vary. Because if you are trying to make secure your internet, your web pages or websites, at that time, or either your mails, we are using the protocols, we are having SSL, TLS. But for the cloud, we are not only restricted to some of the protocols just like SSL, TLS, PGP. We will going to use each and every stuff, because over here not only your website, not only your yes, Shivasai, you are right, but IPS is just not restricted to that, because that's what your firewall is very easy to perform. And if IPS is doing the same work just like your firewall, then what's the use of having an extra payment for this IPS? So just take a time after the session and just try and explore that why there is a need of IPS if we are having firewall, if we are having IDS, and we can check for all this network traffic on firewall and IDS. What actually your IPS is then made for. So where was we? Okay, so we were talking about this encryption protocol. So just like that, we have to use all the cryptography technique in cloud for the data encryption, for the data transfer on the network, for the web pages. So all the protocols, as your SSL protocol, TLS protocol, your certification, your non-repetition like your digital signature, your hash functions, your symmetric key, asymmetric key, your key exchange algorithm, everything you are going to use. So for this, you can say we are having different roles. So cloud is one of the big domain in cyber security where there are different roles for each and everyone. So there is not only a single person who is singly handling all this stuff. So there will be someone who is having the access on the network of the cloud for the particular organization, for the particular services itself. So this is where your security tools required in general. So this is some of the general security tools you will be using for the cloud. So you should be having somewhat knowledge like what tools are there and what are their purposes, because so far we know firewall is the first line of defense. Why? Because everything going on the network is first managed or you can say is checked by the firewall itself. Now just let's see, we have talked about the buckets. So let's see whether we can perform any kind of enumeration or any kind of task on this particular cloud. So anyone having knowledge what is the bucket or S3 bucket is? No, sort of, not only to host web app. Okay, firstly, just tell me the full form of S3 bucket. What is the full form of S3? Guys, you can Google out, there is no restriction for that. Just simply tell me what is full form of S3. Exactly, Ishwar. So S3 is nothing but it's talking about your simple storage service. So the services which you are using, so how the services are being stored on the cloud, and how this services are being managed. This over here we are talking about that. So it's not only regarding your web apps, it could be anything. You're trying to store any kind of services. Now over here, if you can see my screen, we are right now in the root directory itself, and I have created a directory. I have created a directory under cloud practice. So if you can see, in my cloud practice, I have two different you can say directories, that is lazy S3 and S3 scanner. So both lazy S3 and S3 scanner are for the cloud practice purpose. How? Because on the cloud, or the services which are being stored is stored by using certain bucket. So everywhere you are seeing that on the cloud we are having a bucket which is storing all this in a form of containers, and this data in the bucket is stored, we are calling that as S3 bucket. So some of the repositories or some of the tools are there like lazy S3 and S3 scanner, which is actually helping you to enumerate this particular buckets for the particular companies, for the particular organizations, and even you can use this particular tools to figure out that how many sites are hosted on the cloud which are using certain buckets. Now why I am saying I am performing an enumeration, because whenever we are using any kind of tool, the very first task what we are going to do is we are going to go for the information gathering purpose, that is your reconnaissance. But over here there is no need to gather some, also known as information gathering, but over here it's just not restricted to the information gathering. So it's just not restricted to information gathering. We are trying to make an active connection to that target to extract more information in detail. So that's why we are saying we are going to enumerate S3 bucket using some of the tools. So right now I am using lazy S3. So for that you can simply clone this particular website, that is git, using git clone. And one of the best repositories in the GitHub we are having is of Namahsec. So in Namahsec you will find out we are having lazy s3 dot git, and simply you can enter that. Okay, so it's saying that it is already exit and the directory is not an empty directory. So in my case I have already done the cloning. So simply you have to use this command and you can clone this entire repository. Now after cloning that you can simply go and use this tool. So in this tool you have to change the directory to the lazy s3, and after that you will be able to see these three different files. The very first is common bucket prefixes text, and second is your lazy s3.rb. Why it's RB? Because your buckets information which is holding in this particular repository is written in the Ruby language. So you have to be very precautious, or you can say proactive, while using any of these tools and software, that in which languages this tool is written. So this is the tool, or you can say this is the project which has been created in the Ruby language. So that's the reason over here we are having extension .rb. Now how you are going to use this particular function? So simply you have to type ruby lazy s3.rb. So you can see that they are trying to find out n number of buckets which is present over here. So it will try to start scan for each and every bucket based on pictures, based on static, based on users, based on web pages, host, and anything, your user information, admin information. So simply you can press Ctrl Z to stop this, because it will start scanning for each and every stuff instead of them. And for this scan, like if you want to check that any specific organization, that what buckets are there or what services are hosted on that bucket, you can simply use this command, that is ruby lazy s3.rb and the organization name. So simply you have to type this instruction, ruby lazy s3.rb and the organization name. So I am trying to fetch the HackerOne detail, that what information is there with respect to bucket, what services are they using. So any versions will be there, any sub versions will be there, everything about the page, it will be listed over here with the code. So make sure at any frequent point, if you are having that 404, so 404 is something that is not a error. So any questions? So if you guys have any question with regarding to S3 buckets and the security, the vulnerabilities, you can ask over here. And one very important announcement is there, please subscribe the channel, because we are going to give you the perks and giveaway. So if you have not subscribed the channel, you will be not able to have the usage of the perks and giveaway. So guys, you can fill your attendance, the link has been shared with you.